So what is it like to come out of a tomb? What is it like to live in a tomb? We can hear a story like this, and it seems pretty remote, pretty exotic. People laid in tombs and rocks being rolled, and a prophet coming and saying, "Come out and be unbound." But I think in a lot of ways, living in the tomb describes many of our experiences of living in this world. For instance, Asher Brown was a 13-year-old 8th grader in Houston. He told his parents that he was gay. And from their reaction, and the reaction of his friends that same day, he shot himself and died. Billy Lucas, who is 15, was suspended from school because he fought back as to how he was teased. Students would call him gay, tell him to kill himself. He did. Raymond Chase, 19, hanged himself as a sophomore, Johnson and Wales. The list goes on and on. People who live in the tombs. People whose lives seem to them to be death. Why? Why does the world we live in hold so much death? Well, there's a Buddhist legend about someone being in a house that's on fire. And the Buddha says, what do you do when you find someone in a house that's on fire? You don't ask who set the fire, what the caste of the person was who set the fire. You bring them out of the house. The death that is around us, the death that comes to these young people and to others in smaller ways or big ways, is something we can do something about. And we have a model of what that looks like. Why are people picked on? Why are people bullied? Why are people put in positions where they feel they cannot express who they are authentically? I don't know. Probably because all the people picking on them and bullying them and trying to force them, us, all of us into molds, have their own issues as well. Jesus stands at the tomb tonight. And he says to Lazarus, "Come out." What would these young men's lives look like today if instead of hearing the taunts and jeers of parents and friends, they had heard that accepting voice of Jesus who loves us as we are, whoever we are, however we are, saying, "Come out. Be unbound." And I think this happens to all of us. This isn't only a sexual orientation issue. It is that issue. We've seen in the papers the large number recently of people who have killed themselves, young people, because they didn't experience that accepting love from those they trusted and looked up to and needed. But in small ways, this happens to all of us. I used to teach, and when I taught, I had a number of students who would come to me. I taught chemistry. And they would complain and they would say, "My parents are making me take this because they've decided I have to go to medical school." And so I'm not a very creative person, and I would just sort of ask the obvious questions like, do you want to go to medical school? And they'd say, no, I want to do whatever it was. So I'd say, well, what's stopping you from doing that? So my parents, they'll be so angry. Or well, my brother did this, and he's really successful, or whatever it may be. And I never told anybody what to do, but I often wondered what they did. Were they able to hear that voice and see the light that comes into the tomb saying, come out and be unbound? Why don't we come out and become unbound? Well, I think like Lazarus, sometimes we're afraid we're going to stink. I don't know if you caught that line. I said, Lord, he's been in there 4 days. He's going to stink. I think it literally says stink. Didn't it, Charles? Stink. Stench. Okay, that's even better. And that's a real fear, because in the world we live in, which is often a world of conditional love, if it were a world of unconditional love, we wouldn't need to build places like this and come here, would we? But in a world of conditional love, we're often told that certain things about us stink. And the best thing we can do is hide our stench. But you know what? Lazarus didn't stink. When he came out of that tomb, he was unbound. And some legends say that that very person became John the Evangelist, the guy who wrote this story, who lived a dynamic and exciting life, because he allowed himself to be free, to be who he was, not from his own power. I don't know if any of us have that power. These poor fellows didn't. Most people I know don't, including myself. We always fit into boxes. But the good news is that power calls to us. Why have a faith life? Why have a spiritual teacher? Why read the words about and of Jesus 2,000 years old? Because they hold out for us life and promise. The church teaches, and hopefully your own experience in prayer and meditation teaches you that God loves you as you are. Whoever we are, however we come into the world, we are a gift for this world. And those who would entomb us, those who would put a rock in front of the shining light of God that we are in this world, are those who would undo what was done 2,000 years ago. When Jesus let Lazarus burst out of that tomb, Jesus said to each one of us, then and now, that you are loved, that you are right, that you are good. Imagine a world in which everyone was able to believe they were good.